Stream of consciousness. Let it fly. It is what it is. Fuck YouTube. Free thought. Maybe talking some truth, maybe talking some shit. Opinions that matter, opinions that don't even fucking matter. Well, there's only one way to sum this up. This YouTube channel, it's whatever. And that's the way I like it. Don't be scared. Just fucking build. After 9/11 happened, people started cleaning up. Remember I told you before that when the first plane exploded, there were body parts all over the place. The body parts were on Rector Street and across from Rector Street, Battery Park City. Battery Park City, I knew well because I worked across the street from it, and then secondly, I used to have to make deliveries over there. You're talking about a place with high-rise apartments, and you had to have some money, some mucho money in order to live there. To be clear, this entire area is money. The financial district is blocks away. You don't live in Battery Park City unless you got some money. But now, when September 11th happened, when the dust was settled, all of a sudden Battery Park City wasn't so safe anymore for those well-to-do people, and they needed to get the hell out of there. So now let me give you just a quick primer on Brooklyn and Manhattan. I was actually born in Manhattan. I was born in Mount Sinai Hospital, but I grew up in Brooklyn. With that being said, Brooklyn and Manhattan were two different worlds. I'm 49 years old. Anybody who's my age and older, if you want to comment, you can comment if you want, but you know I'm right. Manhattan was white, Brooklyn was everything else. If I'm wrong, then again, throw it in the comment section. The bottom line is though, Brooklyn was dirty, Manhattan was well-to-do and white. The only place that was really grimy in Manhattan was 42nd Street. As time went on, Manhattan got nicer, and Brooklyn got a little bit nicer, but it was still majority everyone else. If you were white, you probably lived in Brooklyn Heights, another expensive part of town with people that were professionals, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Brooklyn's got a bunch of places like that, but the majority of Brooklyn is working class people just striving to get by. It wasn't about that rich boy or rich kid shit, whatever the hell. Wasn't about that. But 9/11 changed that. Now, remember I was telling you about those places across the street from the World Trade Center, Battery Park City? Yeah, all of a sudden those people said, you know what? We can't stay here anymore. But hold on, but we're New Yorkers. We built our whole lives over here in this area. We just can't up and move. Where can we go? Islamophobia was the new thing. Racism and fear of black people became secondary. Now let me tell you exactly how Brooklyn became gentrified. And I am telling the absolute truth. The papers back me up on this. All you gotta do is dig. That's all you gotta do. Find the archives of the New York Daily News, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. They have a thing called white flight. It's happened in American cities. It means when the black people come in, the white people that used to live there, they leave. 9/11 caused white flight from Manhattan to Brooklyn. All of a sudden, the black, the Latinos, all of the people that the Manhattanites would never want to live around, all of a sudden, we became okay. Now listen to what happened. In Brooklyn, a one-bedroom apartment would cost you $600, $800 a month maximum. One-bedroom apartment. Do I need to repeat that shit? Because I know it sounds unbelievable, but I'm telling you because I was there, I had the apartments, and plenty of other people know that's the truth. Once the landlords found out that these Manhattanites were willing to not only come across the bridge, but pay Manhattan numbers for rent, the Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens landlords, the bad ones, they saw an opportunity and they jumped on it. So all of a sudden, one bedrooms became $1,200, $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 a month. Just like that. When I tell you that some of the most fucked up, grimy landlord shit began happening in Brooklyn, Bronx, and Queens, it'll make your fucking head spin. Now, if you don't have a rent stabilized apartment, you was fucked. So all of a sudden, you would get a note saying that the market rate for your apartment has been raised. So you was paying $700 before for rent a month. All of a sudden, they're going to hit you with 13 and 14. And they knew, this is the shit that's wild. The landlords were just hitting you with the preliminaries because their actual goal was to get up to $2,200 for a one bedroom. That's Manhattan prices. And again, these people that's coming from Manhattan, they were more than willing to pay that because that's what they was paying anyway. You understand? People were being put out of their homes, not technically because you can't just throw someone out if they're paying rent, but they were being put out of their homes because they had no choice because they could not afford the new rent. You understand? The landlords knew exactly what they were doing. And if you look at it from the landlord's point of view, let's say you got a 6-floor complex, 6 floors. Everybody on them floors is paying $900 a month. Can you imagine if you could replace every single one of those 900s with 2,200? Can you just imagine how much money you're gonna make? And this is not for the year. This is every month you're gonna be making this money. That's me playing devil's advocate right there. I understood why the landlords was losing their fucking minds. I understood why they was willing to throw out old people for this new money that was coming across the bridge. I understood why it was happening, but I don't condone it. But that's exactly what happened, and let me tell you, you couldn't stop it. You couldn't stop it. The gentrification that everybody talks about when it comes to Brooklyn, that started after 9/11. 9/11 was the set-off. That was the bomb right there. Right there. And when I tell you it happened so fast, I mean, it happened within, I would say 3 years. Easy. That's easy. I want to say 2 years. You have to understand, y'all, the people in Battery Park City were in terror. They did not know when the next attack would be. You have to think about it from their point of view as Manhattanites. When was the next attack going to happen? We can't stay here. We can't. Where the hell are we going to go? My business is in New York still, but where am I going to live with my family? Go right across the bridge. Go right across the bridge. With that new gentrification of Brooklyn from those same people from Manhattan, the brownstones that make Brooklyn kind of iconic, those brownstones began selling for multiple millions of dollars. When before, people bought those brownstones for probably like $300K, $400K. Millions of dollars for a brownstone. And to be clear, these were old buildings. These apartments that they were paying $2,200 a month for, these were old apartments. Those Manhattanites did not care. They didn't give two shits. Because at the end of the day, the terrorists were after Manhattan. They were trying to clearly shut down the financial district, all of that. We were safe in Brooklyn. Yes, there was Black people there and Latino and all of that other shit. There was that element there, but they're just not as scary as a terrorist. And so, with this white flight, Brooklyn changed. I lived on Quincy Street, on the corner of Gates, Bedford-Stuyvesant, Lafayette Avenue, Bedford Avenue, Flatbush Avenue. All of that stuff was right around me, and I watched it slowly change. I watched us getting better stores now. Yeah, I watched us get a increased police presence in the neighborhood. Before it was like, oh yeah, you Black folks can kill each other, we don't give a fuck. But now, no, there's people here and we pay way too much rent to feel like we are in any kind of threat in this neighborhood. So we're going to demand that there's a larger police presence. And that's what the fuck they got. That's what they got. People got priced out of their apartments their buildings, their homes in Queens. In my quiet times, when I think about the gentrification of Brooklyn, I find myself wondering, those people that got priced out of their apartments, where did they go? I know you gotta survive. But I find myself wondering, where did those people go? And so when I look at the different avenues of Brooklyn and how they changed, Myrtle Avenue, Myrtle Avenue is just like, it's like, wow. Like, like, that's all you can say. That's all you can say is just, wow. The Albee Square Mall. It was a great mall. But how it changed. Look at it today. 2023, look at it today. For people that are not my age, downtown Brooklyn looked way different back in the day. Way different. And as long as it was just blacks and every other ethnicity as the predominant, it probably wouldn't have changed too much. But the fact that there's so many white people there now, all of this is so-called, all this color dumb shit, it's just stupid. It changed everything. When I saw that Manhattanites was willing to go to Fort Greene, the landlords were even cleaning up the apartments in the projects. Fort Greene. They were shellacking the floors. They was doing everything to make these apartments, these old apartments that they didn't give a damn about. They was doing everything to make them look slightly updated, just slightly. They wasn't really updating them. They was cleaning them up. But those Manhattanites, they say, I'll take it. We're right over the bridge. So I can still go to work. We'll be safe here. Fort Greene. Do you have any idea? Fort Greene? It's crazy. It was crazy. The strongest emotion is fear. The greatest emotion is love. But the strongest emotion is fear. And the people that can act in spite of fear, that's why we call those people heroes. That's why we call those people brave, because fear is the strongest emotion and you have found some way to still function in a good and productive manner despite the fact that you want to shit on yourself. You're brave. And if you are able to save others during fear, then you are a hero, because usually fear will make you only save yourself. After September 11th, of course, everything changed. These are just some of the things that I remember. These are the predominant things that I remember. It wasn't just the subway stations, the security, the financial district, everything changed. But I'm gonna lose a lot of people on this, but it's just how I feel. I'm a Brooklynite, and I moved from Brooklyn probably about 10 years ago because I could no longer afford it. I said, you know what, if I'm paying over $2,000, $2,400 I believe to be exact, or it might have been $2,700. I can't remember. I blocked it out. But if I'm paying this much for an apartment, then God is letting me know that you can do that house thing you was always scared of doing. You can do it. And so I bought a house. But if I had my way, I would have never left Brooklyn. That was my home. That's where I felt good. And so I know I said I'm going to lose people on this, but I'm going to say it. When it comes to the September 11th attacks, I was never a fan of the World Trade Center anyway. To be quite honest, and let me think before I say this, but I think I'm pretty sure, I never stepped foot in the fucking place. I am sorry for all of those people that lost their lives. That shit is something that did not have to happen. If those buildings were empty, and those planes hit those buildings without any people on board those planes, all right? Let's just say 2 remote control planes hit that building and they made that building fall down. And nobody lost their lives or anything like that. I wouldn't have shed a tear. As long as nobody lost their lives, I would not have shed a fucking tear. They're like, oh yeah, the jobs, what about all those jobs there, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Listen, your lives are more important than any single job, bro. You better check the memo. As long as nobody died in my hypothetical scenario, those buildings can go. But what the destruction of those buildings did to Brooklyn, New York, to the people that had homes, to the people that were born and raised in Brooklyn. No, I'll never forgive that shit. I'll never forgive it. And as they say about 9/11, never forget. Yeah, I ain't gonna never forget that shit. Those two buildings, those two fucking buildings, in my hypothetical scenario where they just drop down and nobody dies, fuck those two buildings. As long as Brooklyn could have stayed the way it was, it would have been worth those two big ass buildings. Not the lives lost, but those two big ass buildings, 100%. So, what you go through in life, it'll make you or break you. It's supposed to make you stronger, but it makes you weaker in a way because you changed. You're not the person that you were. I'm not the person that I were from 9/11. There's a lot of things that's happened between that time for me. And what I will say is that the events of 2020 and all of the COVID hysteria that happened, it just showed me that 9/11, even though the United States poured their support to the victims of 9/11, even though the world poured their support to the victims of 9/11, it still just happened to New York. It just happened to New York, and it didn't happen no place else. So when I saw that Corona shit in 2020 and how hardcore it hit New York, I sat back and I said, man, people must have forgot that 9/11 was so much worse than this. It was so much worse than this. But then I remembered. The reason that they forgot is because now the phones were way more advanced. And the fear campaign pushed by the government, the fear, that strong emotion, the strongest emotion perhaps, that fear made them forget everything that could have possibly made them strong. That fear made them forget. That phone pushing fear made them forget. You have been through worse than COVID-19. But you guys need to be New Yorkers to understand. So that's how strong fear is, to make people even forget the inner strength that they have. Like I said, they forgot. They forgot. They said never forget 9/11. Well, if you're a New Yorker during 2020, you forgot if Corona scared the shit out you. You forgot. Because nothing is fucking with that day. That's if you actually was around. That's if you actually knew the city. That's if you actually were a New Yorker.